Hi, it's Maggie again. Welcome to week 5. This week I'd like to talk a little bit about evaluating sources for use in research papers and assignments. Not every source you find in Galileo will be appropriate for every kind of project. When selecting a source, it's important to keep in mind the purpose of the article, the authority of the author, the audience it was written for, and how you intend to use the information.
When you think about those things with regard to articles you find in Galileo, it can be helpful to sort those articles into two major categories: scholarly, or academic journals, and popular, or magazines and newspapers. In general, articles in scholarly academic journals are written by scholars, researchers, and other specialists or experts who submit their articles to be considered for publication. They use academic or technical language and are intended to be read by an academic audience of other scholars and researchers. They present the author's original thought, critical analysis, or new research findings, and provide citations for all sources used or referenced. They're typically published monthly, quarterly, or annually. Examples of scholarly journals include American Journal of Political Science, Business History Review, the Classical Review, and International Journal of Middle East Studies. Articles in popular sources are written by journalists or other professional writers who are either employed by the publication or are hired on a freelance basis to write articles. Sometimes the author of the article is only listed as staff writer. They use language that is easily understood by most readers and are intended to be read by the general public. They present news and information on current events, profiles and reports of notable people, places, and things, and offer political and social opinions. They do not necessarily cite resources in the article and almost never provide a bibliography. Popular sources are typically published daily, weekly, or monthly. Examples of popular sources include Time, U.S. News and World Report, The New York Times, and The Nation. In person, it's relatively easy to tell the difference between academic journals, popular magazines, and newspapers because they have different physical features. Academic journals typically have a very plain appearance, black and white print, few graphics, and no ads. You might find multiple issues of an academic journal bound together in the form of a hardcover volume that looks like a book. Magazines are glossy and colorful, have photographs, images, and eye-catching design elements, and feature many advertisements. Newspapers are printed on recycled paper called newsprint and have a folded appearance. They typically feature black and white and color photographs and ads. In databases, it may be more difficult to distinguish between these types of sources because all database articles have a similar visual appearance. They appear as words on a screen. Some databases make it easy because they clearly label the type of source an article comes from on the results page, meaning there will be a label or icon that indicates whether the article was published in an academic journal, a magazine, or a newspaper. In other cases, you may need to look at the article record. Look for a field in the record that says source type or something similar. If that doesn't work, look for a volume and issue number, which is a common feature of academic journals, but less so of magazines and newspapers. If you still can't tell, a librarian can definitely help you. Also, don't forget that you can limit your search to just academic journals, or just magazines, or just newspapers, or any combination of the above, using search limiters. Remember that both scholarly and popular sources can be appropriate for research papers and projects, depending on what your topic or assignment is. Ask yourself, do you want information on current events or background information on issues in society or popular culture? If so, you may need to consult some popular sources. Do you need research, critical analysis, or new ideas by experts to help develop, inform, or support your topic or thesis? If so, you might need to look for some scholarly resources. However, it's always important to read and understand the guidelines your professor has given you about what types of sources to use for an assignment. If your professor tells you that you must cite 3 academic journal articles, it's best to follow those directions. If you're having trouble finding enough sources to explore a topic or develop and support a thesis, be sure to get in touch with a librarian.